What up, everybody? For my distributed reading, I got to listen to a podcast called Keeping It Queer. And it's a podcast by two gay men from India, and they had a special guest she's a stand-up comedian. And the whole idea of the podcast is to talk about laws, politics, pop culture, all through a queer lens. And I actually like that they also want to have wider conversations with their parents' generation, that this might help them get on board to better know themselves as their parents and better know their kids. I think that is awesome. And the subject they did was all on monogamy. And they start the conversation by talking about their parents' generation of how monogamy was not even an option. It was never even discussed. The idea of love and pleasure was way down the list because they were more interested in helping their family survive. And one of the hosts said, my parents' priority was just having me, and then keeping me alive and making sure that I am successful. And so the whole idea of monogamy, of we're going to do it for the kids, they said was kind of bullshit, because even when they left the house, their parents didn't move towards one another. They still didn't move for joy or for pleasure. And so as two gay men in separate relationships, they find the idea of monogamy somewhat impossible, being that if you put all your expectations for what you want sexually, emotionally, relationally, intellectually, it's impossible. One person can't deliver all that for all time. So their way of moving through that is through having open relationships. And open relationships to them is that you have to have a strong foundation. You have to have a lot of communication and a lot of trust. And once you have that built up, then you can move into with other partners and other experiences, because they know, since I know I'm loved and I'm trusted, then I can come back home to my loving partner and not needing them to meet every single need that I have. And it's important that for them, it's not just a sexual thing. It might be, I want to have a friend to go do something with. I like this person can stimulate me intellectually in a way that I don't find with my partner. And then sometimes it is sexually. One of the hosts that he said was that he believes his body is a temple and it's meant to be shared with many, many people. And that brings him great joy. They talked on the messiness of it. They said there's no manual, there's no list of how to walk through it. But what they did say is that they called it a unicorn of a gay couple that has been together 10, 12 plus years. And in their experience, they said every gay couple they've met who've made it that long have been in an open relationship. Because again, it sheds off the expectation that you have to be the only thing for me for all time, which brings, they talked about how they had a better appreciation for their partner, of what they loved about them specifically when they have an open relationship. And their biggest, I'd say, takeaway is that to never compromise your happiness. The only expectation they have of their partner is that they could get clear of what it is they love about them. And outside of that, they had no other expectations. And that happiness is their highest concern, which I really do love. And to never compromise your happiness, because you're worth it. My personal takeaway from reading this is that I'm a cisgendered, straight white man who has a membership to a country club. I fit all the boxes. And I've been married to my wife for 20 plus years. And from our conversations from Indecent Theology, which I loved, and from listening to this podcast, we had a great discussion of my wife and I are monogamous, but do we do that by choice? Or has that been put on us by our culture, that we were raised in a fundamental evangelical community? It was never even an option. And so we had a very long discussion of is monogamy something you still want? Do you want to have an open relationship? It was so scary, at first, or not scary, threatening at first. But once we got into it, it was a beautiful conversation. And I've noticed, to wrap things up, that my wife and I both lead a wildly progressive church in northern Minnesota. And when I have conversations about polyamory or about monogamy, there is like this line that we've drawn, at least in this area, of where like, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, why? If it's healthy, consensual adults moving in a way that makes them feel loved and with clarity and kindness, like what's the downside of that? Which goes back to indecent theology of anything that, even as progressive people, anything that doesn't fit in what we believe to be sacred or decent or good, we somehow have to then make that less than or call it indecent. And so the conversations through this in my marriage, with my friends in our church, has been wild.